Thank you, Terry, for being here today. For everyone watching right here, I know this is a question that comes up a lot. I'm behind on my payments. What options do I have available? And we have Terry Hamill today to kind of walk us through some certain options. Thanks, Terry, for being here today.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. The first thing, if you find yourself behind on your payments, pick up the phone and call your lender. I can't tell you how many people that we run into that, for whatever reason, never call their lender. And they get to a point where they're so far behind in their payments that there's nothing they can do to dig themselves out. Especially now, if you've got an adjustable rate mortgage and everyone's heard on the news, interest rates are going up. If for some reason your payment's going to go up and you can't afford it, don't wait to miss your first payment. Pick up the phone and call your lender. Try to work something out with them. See if they'll do a loan modification for you. See if they'll lock you in for a longer period of time at a lower interest rate. Don't wait until you're 6 months delinquent. Guys, your lender's not going to bite your head off. Trust me. The people you talk to run into this all the time. You're not the only one going through this. So, don't be embarrassed. You have a choice. You can either be embarrassed or you can lose your house. If being embarrassed is the worst that happens and you get to stay in your house, be embarrassed. But call your lender. They really are not, most of them are not that bad to deal with. And if for some reason you have to sell your house, don't just sit there and let the bank, foreclose on you. Call Vinnie. Honestly, see if there's, with the appreciation, in homes, especially in San Diego, it's quite possible you could sell your house and at least walk away with some money. We see a lot of people also that they don't know what to do. They don't call their lender. They get in a hole and then they just sit there and wait to call someone until a week before an auction and end up losing their house. Don't put yourself in that situation, especially if you got equity.
Well, and currently how things sit, you have the ability for everyone to watch right now. Once you get in default and they file a notice of default, I mean, generically, at least in 2022, they have 90 days to file the notice of sale, then notice of sale is another 30 days before the actual goes to auction. So you have a little bit of a window of time on it, even when you get the first notice of default, yet you're probably behind on at least a couple payments before that time comes about. I think something, the misconception that I hear is, oh, I have to be in default before the lender will actually talk to me.
For some loan products, yes. But for a majority of them, no. Once again, if you find that you're not going to be able to make your payment, call your lender. You'll never know what you can or can't do until you talk to them. And, they'll want you to fill out a packet, and it could be that your payment's going up because you're an adjustable rate mortgage. It could be that you got sick, you got COVID or something, or you had a family member die, and you're about to fall behind or you just fell behind in your payment. Call your lender. And guys, this holds true for everything, not just mortgages. If something happens in your life and you're not going to be able to pay your bills and you're renting, call your landlord. If you've got a credit card, call your credit card company. If you got an auto loan, call your auto loan company. People will be amazed at what their quote unquote debt collectors will do in order to keep you from defaulting. It could be that they cut your payment in half for the next 3 months, because statistically what happens is once you've hit about the third missed payment, the chance of you ever catching up or repaying is almost nothing. I mean, people are so far in the hole at that point, they put their head in. So by you being proactive, a lot of your, creditors are going to be very happy that you called, and not always, but oftentimes they'll work something out with you. The great thing about it is if they do work out a plan for you, oftentimes they will not report it. You can ask them and make sure you do up front. They won't report you as delinquent, so it's not going to hurt your credit even. No guarantee, but you don't ask, you don't get. So call, use the phone. You pay for it, use it.
Well, and if the modification doesn't go forward, right, you can't get approved on a modification. You can't get approved on any kind of assistance right there. I mean, there is always the option, especially as your primary resident, a bankruptcy, Chapter 13 bankruptcy. I mean, if you need a bankruptcy attorney, feel free to reach out to myself or our team, and we can help you out with that. Now, for people that are, let's say they're done with it, they don't want to deal with that property anymore. They've done a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. What happens next? I mean, again, something that we hear is, okay, well, I don't own that property anymore. I already did a Chapter 7 bankruptcy.
Yeah, that's not the case. So, assuming that you've gone through a bankruptcy and assuming that the debt was included in the bankruptcy, while the lien may still be on the property. In other words, if you have a mortgage, the lien from the mortgage is still on the property. Even though you don't owe that note anymore, you're still entitled. Even if you go through a bankruptcy, you still have the ability to sell the property. Now, on the flip side, one thing I want to bring up also is that if you have liens on the property from credit cards and things like that, and you go through a bankruptcy and they are discharged through the bankruptcy, but you're just a traditional chapter 7, and there's not an order to strip the lien, which we usually only see in chapter 13s. Sell the property, that lien will still be there. So even though you don't personally owe the money, if you sell the property, that lien still has to be dealt with. So just be aware of that stuff that discharges through a bankruptcy, if it's a lien on the property, unless there's an order to strip the lien and your attorney's gone through the process of physically removing that lien from the property, it is still there, and it still does have to be paid, even though you don't personally owe it, because you still have the ability to sell the property. That lien would still need to be paid. So just be aware that we run into that a lot, where you've got a seller that had a first mortgage and a second mortgage, and they went through a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and they thought that second mortgage was gone because they never heard from them again. And 10 years later, they go to sell the house, and lo and behold, that second mortgage is still there. And that second mortgage wants back interest. And that's totally illegal. The lien that second mortgage has on the property is valid, even though it's gone through Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and the homeowner no longer owes the money, but the lien is still there, and that second trustee can force to collect it.
And then one last question that comes up is, I have such bad memories in that property. I don't want to deal with that property anymore. What are the pros? And maybe you borrowed against it. You borrowed money against the property. What are the pros of either just letting the property go to auction compared to short selling it or traditionally selling it?
It depends. Every situation is different. Sometimes it's more beneficial because there's other underlying debt to go through a bankruptcy and let the bank take it back. Sometimes if there is a second mortgage on the property and it is a recourse loan, in other words, you took the loan out after you originally bought the property, and it may have been cash out or something, it's a recourse loan. So if the first mortgage forecloses, that second mortgage can still come after you after the foreclosure and sue you and try to collect the money. So every situation is different. If you're in a situation where you're not sure what to do, pick up the phone, call someone like Vinnie. I call Vinnie. Vinnie's done, and this is a shameless plug for Vinnie. Worked with him for years. We do a lot of work with agents. He's one of the agents I love to work with because he actually does his job, and he knows when he doesn't know something, and we'll pick up the phone and call someone that's why he always asks, who do you know that we should know? He goes out of his way to connect with people that can fill in the gaps, because no one can know everything. I mean, it's just impossible. Even in what we do, we go to attorneys all the time and ask questions. You're always going to run into situations that are just weird and you just don't know the answer to.
I mean, it's knowing the information will help you so much more, because that true saying, just like getting a modification on your own with the property, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can go, I mean, and relate to the search provider saying, hey, well, this is something that just happened, or this is what went on right here, or here's a new law that just passed. This is why the client should be able to do this. I mean, with Terry constantly studying, reading the information, him and his team, it's going to help you get to where you want to get to. Because again, it's not always about today. It's about tomorrow and the next day. Right. But before you do anything, if you're going through struggling times, the moral of all this is just pick up the phone, first call the bank, and then call any kind of trusted resource that you might have. And if you don't have a trusted resource, feel free to call myself or Terry, and the information is down below. Thank you guys for watching. Please reach out if you have any kind of questions. It doesn't hurt to pick up the phone.